Ethan Morgan was the kind of man who had everything, at least on paper. At just 42, he was already a multi-millionaire thanks to a chain of successful organic grocery stores that had started from a single stand at a farmer's market in Chicago. Tall, polished, and charismatic, Ethan commanded respect in the boardroom. But behind the tinted windows of his black Tesla and the walls of his glass penthouse, he lived a surprisingly quiet, lonely life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It's always special to have you here with us, living these amazing stories. His days were filled with business meetings, charity galas, and video calls. But his true priority, his world, was his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Since his divorce 3 years ago, Ethan had fought to remain a present father, always picking Lily up from school when he could, attending every piano recital, and never missing a single bedtime story when she was with him. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Ethan had to make a quick stop at a local grocery store on the outskirts of Chicago. He wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans, trying to blend in. While in the checkout line, he noticed a woman ahead of him. She was fumbling through her wallet, clearly stressed as she tried to decide what items to put back. Her cart had essentials: eggs, pasta, milk, a few vegetables, and a box of children's vitamins. "I'm sorry, I only have $30, she whispered to the cashier, visibly embarrassed. Ethan didn't even think twice. "Put it all on mine," he said gently, tapping his card against the reader before the woman could object. She turned to him, stunned. "No, I can't let you." "It's okay. Just take care of your kid," Ethan replied with a small smile. The woman blinked rapidly, her eyes misty. "Thank you. I don't even know your name." "Ethan," he said, giving a small nod before walking off. He wasn't seeking recognition, just a quiet gesture of kindness, something to teach Lily about generosity later that night. What Ethan didn't know was that he'd just helped someone far more connected to his life than he could ever imagine. The next day, Ethan arrived early to pick up Lily from her private school in Lincoln Park. It was Parent-Teacher Appreciation Week, and he had promised to attend a short afternoon meeting with her homeroom teacher. As he waited outside the classroom, he scrolled through emails on his phone until he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Lily's doing wonderfully this semester, Mr. Morgan." Ethan looked up and froze. Standing before him was the same woman from the grocery store. She was dressed modestly in a soft blue cardigan with her hair neatly tied back. Her name tag read, "Ms. Harper, Grade 3. "You," Ethan started, unable to hide his shock. Her face registered the same realization. "Wait, you're from the store." A wave of silence passed between them, but Ms. Harper quickly composed herself. "I never imagined I'd see you again. I had no idea you were Lily's teacher," Ethan said slowly. "I didn't even catch your name yesterday." She smiled politely. "It's Emily. Emily Harper." That moment felt surreal to both of them, like fate was playing a quiet joke. Over the next few minutes, Emily carried on with the conference, highlighting Lily's strengths in class, her curiosity, kindness, and eagerness to help others. Ethan listened closely, his mind drifting between the report and the memory of Emily at the checkout counter, choosing between groceries and dignity. When the meeting ended, Emily turned to him. "Thank you again for what you did. You didn't have to." "I know," Ethan said gently, "but I'm glad I did." As days passed, Ethan found himself thinking about Emily more than he expected, not in a romantic sense, at least not yet, but as someone whose strength intrigued him. How was she managing everything, teaching full-time, raising a child, perhaps alone? Why was a respected teacher struggling with basic groceries? He began volunteering more at Lily's school under the pretense of being a more involved parent. In truth, he wanted to learn more about Emily. Eventually, during a school fundraiser, he saw her sitting alone at a corner table, reviewing a stack of graded papers. He walked over. "May I sit?" Emily looked up, surprised. "Sure, Mr. Morgan. Please, call me Ethan." That night, over paper cups of lukewarm coffee and PTA small talk, Emily opened up just a little. She was a single mother to a 6-year-old boy named Noah. Her ex-husband had left without warning 2 years prior. She never asked for help, never wanted pity, just wanted to be strong for her son and her students. "I love what I do," she said, "even if it doesn't always pay the bills." Ethan nodded, quietly admiring her resilience. A woman who gave so much to others but asked for nothing in return. But the more he learned, the more something inside him began to shift. He had always believed wealth was for expanding businesses and giving back through charities. But maybe kindness could also live in the little things, like listening, showing up, sharing burdens quietly. Still, he had no idea just how much Emily's life and his own were about to intertwine. It had been weeks since the grocery store incident, and Ethan and Emily had gradually grown more comfortable around each other. They often exchanged smiles during school events, brief conversations in the parking lot, and even an occasional message about school logistics. But one Friday afternoon, everything changed. Ethan had just arrived home from a board meeting when Lily came running into the living room, clutching a hand-drawn picture. "Daddy, look what I made for Ms. Harper." He smiled, kneeling to take a closer look. It was a picture of her class, with "Best Teacher Ever" written in big, colorful letters. But something at the bottom caught Ethan's eye. 2 stick figures holding hands, a little girl and a woman, with the words, "I wish Ms. Harper was my mommy." His heart stopped. He looked at Lily. "Sweetheart, why did you draw this?" She shrugged innocently. "Because she's kind. She always listens to me, and she smells like cookies." Ethan gave a soft laugh, but the moment pierced something deep inside him. Not because of romance, but because Lily was missing a nurturing presence he hadn't even realized she needed. And somehow, Emily had quietly become that figure. The next morning, Ethan brought fresh muffins to the school to thank the teachers. When he handed Emily the box, she smiled warmly. "Thank you. Lily's been extra sweet lately." "She really admires you," Ethan replied. "You've made a big impact on her." Emily hesitated, then spoke softly. "I tried to give each child what I wish someone had given me at that age." Their eyes locked for a second too long. That evening, Ethan sat alone on his balcony, looking out over the skyline. He kept thinking about how their lives had intersected. It started with a small act of kindness. Now it was something more, a connection, one that neither of them had planned for. The real turning point came a few days later. Ethan was driving through a quiet suburb when he spotted a familiar figure walking along the sidewalk with a young boy holding her hand. It was Emily. Without hesitation, he pulled over. "Need a ride?" She hesitated. "It's okay. We're just heading home." But it was starting to rain. "Come on, let me help this time too." She smiled and nodded. As Noah climbed into the back seat, Ethan offered him a fist bump. The boy grinned. Back at their small apartment complex, Emily invited Ethan up for a quick coffee as a thank you. The space was modest but warm, books on the shelves, school projects taped to the fridge, and a handmade photo frame that read, "Family is everything." While Noah played in the next room, Emily sat across from Ethan at the small kitchen table. "I don't let many people into this space," she said. "It's not much." "It's home," Ethan replied. "And it says a lot about you." Emily bit her lip and looked down. "I never wanted to burden anyone, especially not someone like you." "What do you mean, someone like me? You have everything. And I sometimes can't afford milk." Ethan leaned forward. "Emily, what you give your students, your son, my daughter, it's worth more than any bank account." Her eyes welled up. For the first time, someone saw her not just as strong, but as human. That night marked a shift. Not just in their relationship, but in Ethan's understanding of what truly mattered. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself rethinking his entire lifestyle. He began turning down high society events and skipping unnecessary business meetings, instead choosing to spend more time volunteering at Lily's school and reconnecting with simple joys, reading bedtime stories, attending art fairs, and even helping Emily with small classroom repairs. But the world around them wasn't blind. Rumors started to spread among the other parents, some curious, some judgmental. Why is he spending so much time here? Is he dating the teacher? Maybe she's after his money. Emily heard the whispers too. One afternoon after class, she caught Ethan by the parking lot. "I don't want to cause trouble for you," she said softly, avoiding his eyes. Whatever this is between us, it's beautiful, but it's also complicated." Ethan stepped closer. "Emily, I don't care what anyone thinks. You've reminded me of what really matters, and I don't want to back away from that." Still, Emily was hesitant. She had built her life on independence and pride. Accepting help, especially from someone like Ethan, was difficult for her. Then, one weekend, her son Noah fell seriously ill. It was just a fever at first, but it spiked rapidly. Emily rushed him to the ER and waited nervously in the overcrowded public hospital. She had no private insurance, no family nearby, just fear. Without thinking, she texted Ethan, "I'm at Mercy Hospital, it's Noah." 15 minutes later, Ethan burst through the ER doors. He found her sitting with Noah in her lap, eyes red from crying. Without a word, he wrapped his coat around both of them and spoke to the front desk. Within minutes, he had arranged for Noah to be seen by a pediatric specialist. No red tape, no waiting, just immediate care. Emily tried to protest. "Ethan, this is too much." He looked at her gently. "You helped raise my daughter. Let me help protect your son." The following hours were tense, but Noah eventually stabilized. It had been a respiratory infection, treatable with medication. As Ethan stood beside Emily in the hospital hallway, she turned to him with teary eyes. "I've always tried to do it all alone, but tonight, I realized I don't have to." He took her hand. No one should have to. From that night forward, something between them changed. Not out of gratitude or obligation, but out of trust, out of shared vulnerability. Ethan began including both Emily and Noah in more aspects of his and Lily's life. Weekend lunches, science fairs, and family park days. Slowly, a new kind of family began to form, quiet and unspoken at first, but real. For Ethan, it wasn't about charity anymore, it was about purpose. For Emily, it was no longer about pride, but partnership. And for the children, it was joy, innocent and pure. Months passed, the seasons changed, but the quiet bond between Ethan, Emily, Lily, and Noah only deepened. Their lives slowly intertwined in ways none of them had anticipated. Weekend brunches turned into family game nights. Helping with homework became comforting routines. And Ethan, he began to feel something he hadn't felt in years: peace. But not everyone celebrated this new chapter. At Lily's school, a group of elitist parents began to complain behind closed doors. They believed Ethan's presence, especially his close connection with Ms. Harper, was inappropriate and created a perception of favoritism. One morning, the school principal called Emily into her office. "I'm sorry, Emily. Several parents have raised concerns. They're threatening to pull their children if this continues." Emily was stunned. "You're asking me to end a relationship that's completely outside of work? I'm asking you to consider what's best for the school's reputation and your career." The weight of those words hit hard. That evening she sat in her small living room, hands trembling as she held a folded letter of resignation she'd written hours earlier. She hadn't told Ethan, not yet. Just then, a knock on the door. Ethan stood there, flowers in one hand, a silly paper crown Lily had made in the other. "Ms. Harper, your student made you something royal." Emily smiled weakly and stepped aside. "I need to tell you something." She explained the meeting, the pressure, the judgment, the ultimatum. Ethan was silent for a moment, absorbing it all. Then, his jaw tightened, not with anger but determination. "You are one of the best teachers I've ever met, and one of the best human beings. If they can't see that, maybe they don't deserve you." Emily shook her head. "I don't want to lose this job, Ethan, but I also don't want to lose us." He paused. "What if you didn't have to choose?" That night, Ethan did something unexpected. He called an emergency meeting with the school's board of directors, of which he happened to be a quiet donor. He had never pulled rank, never interfered, until now. In that meeting, he spoke with passion, not as a millionaire, but as a father. Emily Harper is not just an exceptional teacher. She's the reason my daughter feels safe, seen, and loved every single day. If the board believes that love and dedication are a threat to your image, then you can count me out. My donations, my support, everything. There was silence. Then, slow agreement. The complaints were dismissed. No action would be taken. Emily's position remained untouched. The next day, Ethan walked into her classroom after the last bell rang. She turned to him, surprised. "They dropped everything," he nodded. "They remembered who they work for. Children, not egos." And then, with quiet confidence, he took a deep breath. "Emily, I don't want to keep waiting for the perfect time. I want to build something real with you and our kids. If you'll have me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you'd never ask." Months later, the changes were subtle but powerful. Ethan no longer lived in the cold penthouse overlooking the city. Instead, he bought a cozy brownstone just a few blocks away from Emily's school. A home with a backyard for Lily and Noah to play in. A kitchen big enough for science project disasters and pancake breakfasts. A home filled with laughter, crayons, forgotten socks, and the beautiful chaos of a blended family. Emily didn't resign from her job. In fact, with Ethan's quiet support, she began developing after-school programs for underprivileged students. She never asked for anything. She simply continued giving everything she had. Lily thrived more than ever. Her grades improved, but more importantly, so did her joy. She had started calling Emily Miss M at home, half teacher, half something more. And Noah, he'd found a father figure in Ethan. One who showed up to soccer practice, read bedtime stories, and helped with school projects even when they involved glitter and papier-mâché disasters. There were still challenges, of course. No fairy tale is perfect, but they faced them together with respect, patience, and love. One evening during a school talent show, Lily stood on stage and performed a simple song she had written herself. She called it "Family is More Than Names." Her soft voice filled the auditorium as she sang, "You don't need to match to fit. You don't need to ask to sit. A family's where the love is loud and every heart is proud." In the audience, Ethan held Emily's hand. He looked around at the filled seats, the smiling parents, and then at the two children sitting proudly in the front row, Lily and Noah. Tears welled in his eyes, not because he had given, but because he had received so much more in return. 1 year later, it was a warm spring afternoon in Chicago. The backyard of the Morgan Harper home was buzzing with laughter, barbecue smoke, and the occasional bark from their newly adopted golden retriever, named Lucky, a name chosen by Noah and approved with a unanimous cheer. Emily stood by the patio, watching as Ethan helped Lily and Noah build a lemonade stand for the neighborhood kids. He wore an apron that read "Mawan Dad," a goofy gift from the children. He looked silly. He looked perfect. She smiled. It wasn't about the money. It never had been. Ethan had given her far more than groceries, more than comfort, more than security. He had given her respect, space, partnership, family. Later that evening, the four of them sat on a picnic blanket under the stars. Noah had fallen asleep, head on Ethan's lap, while Lily pointed at constellations with a flashlight. Emily turned to Ethan. "You know, all of this started with $28. He laughed softly. "Best $28 I ever spent." There was a pause, a quiet, sacred one. Then she added, "You saved me that day, and you didn't even know it." Ethan looked into her eyes, filled with gratitude and love. "I think we saved each other." Above them, stars twinkled in a calm night sky. Around them, the sounds of children sleeping, wind in the trees, and the quiet beat of a new life together. A family born from chance, strengthened by choice, and held together by love. Another story comes to an end, but many more are yet to come. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching. May the grace of God be with you.